Spring in Modesto means perpetual drafts and blooming acacias. Their sweet smell wafts through the tightly closed windows of my second-floor apartment on Old Main Street. 40 years ago, when my ex-husband and I moved in, we couldn't afford a better neighborhood. Now that I could move, there was no point. At 67 years old, which I'll be in 3 days, new walls will bring neither happiness nor youth. Leaning on my cane, a gift from my daughter last birthday, I walked to the window. Directly across the street is the window of Johnson's Grocery, where I've been picking up groceries for 30 years. Johnson's oldest son, Paul, waves at me from behind the counter. I nod back. I'll have to come back for milk. Don't forget the milk, Martha, I mumble to myself as I walk back to the couch. My memory has been playing tricks on me these past few years. Sometimes I forget what day of the week it is, but I distinctly remember that Zoe got a D on her math test in 3rd grade and cried in the kitchen. I didn't comfort her then. I only said, "Don't cry, but if you don't have enough brains, you'll spend the rest of your life scrubbing floors like me." Why am I remembering this now? The phone on the nightstand rings demandingly. I glance at the screen, the number for Barbara Gaines, my only friend left in Modesto. "Hi, Barb," I say, trying to keep my voice upbeat. "Martha, sweetheart." Barbara's voice sounds like she's talking to a child, as always. "I'm calling to tell you that I can't make it to your birthday party. My niece Sarah invited me to Sacramento this weekend, her boys' first baseball game." I clutch the phone a little tighter, but keep my voice steady. "Of course, Barb. Family's more important. We can reschedule for another day." You know I wouldn't have missed it for anything, but Sarah was so insistent. Maybe I could swing by on Monday? No worries. Have fun." I hang up without waiting for another apology. That's the third rejection of the day. My roommate Doris is leaving to visit her sister in Bakersfield. Nancy's former coworker suddenly caught a cold. Now Barbara. It looks like I'll be spending my 67th birthday with the TV and Oscar the cat, if he deigns to crawl out from under the bed. My gaze falls on the picture on the bookshelf Zoe at her college graduation. Her dark blue suit, her hair in a neat bun, and that look of restraint but determination. My daughter always knew what she wanted: to leave Modesto, to build a career, to escape the life I've created for her. I'm picking up the frame. It's been 8 years since that graduation. She barely spoke to me then, only out of necessity. And I was proud of her, but I couldn't show it. Instead of congratulations, I asked if she was finally going to get a normal job instead of wasting time on these computers. The ringing of the phone pulls me out of my memories. On the screen is a photo of Zoe, the only picture of her smiling. It's from 4 years ago, when she was still trying to work on our relationship, before she met Jareth. "Hi, Mom." Her voice sounds strained, as it always does in our conversations. "Hello, Zoe. Calling to see what time I should be there on Saturday?" I know I sound demanding, but I can't help it. The silence on the other end of the line tells me everything. Even before Zoe says, "Mom, I'm calling to say..." Anyway, I can't come to your birthday party. Something inside me shatters, but I just clutch the phone tighter. That's it. What is it this time? An urgent project? A conference? Or did she just find something more interesting to do? "Mom, please." She sounded tired. "The thing is, Eleanor's sick. She's got a bad case of arthritis and she can hardly move. Jareth is at work from morning till night and his father is away on business. I need to be with her. Eleanor, mother-in-law. The woman who's managed to become closer to Zoe in 3 years than I was in 26 years of motherhood." "So your mother-in-law is more important than your own mother?" I can hear it, but I can't stop myself. "It's not that, and you know it," Zoe says quietly but firmly. "Eleanor needs help. She can't be alone right now." "And I can? On my birthday?" "Mom." No, don't bother explaining. I understand perfectly. That woman gave you what I couldn't, a rich husband and a life without worries. It's not fair." "Life isn't fair, baby. I'm the one who should know that." I can hear Zoe sighing deeply on the other end of the line. She always did that before she gave up, ever since she was a little girl. "I'll send you a gift by courier, and I'll call you on Saturday," she finally says. "Don't bother," I reply. "I have plans for tonight." It's a lie, and we both know it. But Zoe pretends to believe it. "Okay, Mom. Then I'll call you on Sunday. Suit yourself. I press hang up and throw the phone on the couch. Bitterness rises to my throat, and I swallow it down like I've been used to doing all my life. There's no point in getting upset. Zoe's been living her life for a long time now, where I've been relegated to being a burden, remembered for holidays and family obligations. 3 years ago, when Zoe introduced me to Jareth Latimer, I knew where this was going. A polished boy from a wealthy family, with his impeccable manners and condescending smile. He said he worked in finance, but in reality, he was the heir to his father's investment company. Men like him marry girls like Zoe to appear democratic. And she always wanted more than I could give her. I get up from the couch and head for the kitchen. The calendar on the refrigerator mercilessly reminds me of the approaching Saturday, the 23rd of March, my birthday. A red marker circles that date and it reads, Zoe is coming by 6. Now that's not going to happen. I pour myself a cup of tea and look out the window at the street, where sparse passersby hurry about their business. I used to know all my neighbors by name, but now I hardly recognize their faces. Modesto is changing, like everything around it. Only I remain the same, alone and unwanted. The phone rings again. I think it's Zoe making it up to me with an extra apology, but an unfamiliar number pops up on the screen. Cell phone rings. Hello? Good afternoon, is this Martha Winship? Asks a young female voice. Yes, that's me. My name is Jenny, and I'm with County Social Services. We're starting a new support program for older residents, and we'd like to invite you to participate. Once a week, our volunteers can visit you, help with shopping, or just keep you company. I interrupt her. Thank you, dear, but I don't need charity. I'm quite self-sufficient. It's not a charity, Mrs. Winship. The program is funded by the county and… Goodbye. I hang up the phone, feeling the anger boiling up inside me. This is what I've come to, being treated like a helpless old woman in need of care. No, I'm strong enough to handle things on my own. I always have been, and I will be now. I take a sip of tea and wince. It's cold, like my life. It's time to accept that my birthday will be spent alone. After all, what's so special about this date? Just another day on the calendar, a reminder that I'm getting older and unneeded. I think of Zoe caring for her mother-in-law. I imagine her hustling around that woman, bringing her tea and medicine, talking to her with a tenderness she's never shown me. And Eleanor must be looking at her with that maternal pride I have always concealed. Well, I say aloud to the empty room, at least I'll have a good excuse to feel sorry for myself on my birthday. Oscar finally crawls out of his hiding place and rubs against my legs as if in agreement. I lean down to pet him and feel my fingers go numb. The arthritis is kicking in. Ironically, Eleanor and I share the same disease, but she gets her daughter's care and I get an empty apartment. Evening descends on Modesto, painting the walls of my living room orange. I turn on the TV to fill the silence and start planning my lonely birthday party. Perhaps I'll buy myself a small cake from the bakery on the corner, or make the one dish I've always been good at, tuna casserole. Zoe hated it, but it doesn't matter anymore. Deep down, I know it's not my daughter's fault that she prefers her mother-in-law's company. I raised her to be independent and striving for a better life. But I can't admit it out loud. It's easier to accuse her of ingratitude than to admit my own mistakes. The phone goes silent until the evening. Zoe doesn't call back again, and I don't know if I'm relieved or disappointed. As I cook dinner, I go over our conversation in my head, thinking of barbed responses I could have said. In my imagination, I'm always resourceful and witty. In reality, I'm just a lonely woman with a bad temper. When I go to bed, I look at the picture of Zoe on my bedside table. In it, she is still very young, about 5 years old, with 2 pigtails and a gap-toothed smile. She was still looking at me with adoration then. I believed I could give her everything she dreamed of. Welcome back to reality, Martha, I whisper as I turn off the light. My birthday is 2 days away, and somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm hoping that Zoe will change her mind and come. But reason says that's not going to happen. She's chosen her new family, her mother-in-law with her arthritis, her husband with his money. And you can't blame me. I probably would have done the same thing, but it doesn't make it any easier. My birthday started with Oscar knocking over the vase of wilted flowers I bought myself 3 days ago. The water spilled over the coffee table, soaking the morning paper and the TV remote. the perfect start to my 67th year of life. Why did you do that? I asked the cat, who was licking his paw independently on the windowsill. Did you want to remind me that no one needs me so much that even the cat is mocking me? Oscar looks at me with his yellow eyes, which read complete indifference to my problems. Well, at least he's honest. After blotting up the puddle with paper towels, I go into the kitchen to make breakfast. From the refrigerator, the small cream cake I bought yesterday at Sanders Bakery stares back at me. "Happy birthday, Martha," reads the inscription in pink frosting. I specifically asked for my name to be written so the saleswoman wouldn't look at me with pity, thinking the cake was for someone else. 67 years old, and I still worry about what strangers will think. The phone's been silent all morning. Neither Zoe nor any of the few acquaintances rushed to congratulate me. I know my daughter promised to call, but apparently she's too busy caring for her precious mother-in-law. Don't stir up the anger in you, Martha, I tell myself as I pour a cup of coffee. But the anger has already awakened and is now roaming through my veins along with my high blood pressure. After breakfast, I decide to check the mail. The pension should have been transferred yesterday, and I need to make sure everything is in order. Opening my laptop, a gift from Zoe last Christmas, I log into my email account. 5 emails, a pension transfer notice, a supermarket newsletter, a loan offer, information about a sale at the pharmacy, and an e-card from Barbara. Dear Martha, happy birthday to you. May this year bring you health and joy. I wish I could be with you today, but mentally I am there for you. Hugs, your Barb. A standard greeting with no heart or sincerity, but at least someone remembered. Closing the mail, I open Facebook. Zoe insisted I get an account a couple years ago, so we can stay in touch. How ironic. Now I use the platform mainly to follow my daughter's life from afar, as she shares only scraps of information with me in person. The feed is slow to load. The internet in my neighborhood leaves much to be desired. Finally, the news appears. Someone's anniversary, fishing photos from a former colleague, political comments from a neighbor, and a post by Nancy Fletcher, a mutual friend of Zoe's and mine. What a beauty! So jealous of your vacation, Zoe. Say hi to Jarrett and his parents. I freeze, not believing my eyes. My fingers tremble as I click on the photo attached to the post. The snapshot opens to full screen and my heart skips a beat. 4 smiling people stand against a backdrop of turquoise ocean and palm trees. Zoe is in a light white dress, with a wide-brimmed straw hat, her hair fluttering in the wind. Next to her is Jareth, wrapping his arms around her waist, and flanked by his parents, Eleanor in sunglasses and a colorful blouse, and Richard in a Hawaiian shirt. All 4 are holding umbrella cocktails and looking perfectly happy. I look at the publication date, yesterday, 16:30. The time in Modesto is around 7 in the evening. Mother-in-law with arthritis, can't move, needs care. Blood rushes to my face, my hands begin to shake harder. I can feel the rage rising from within, covering my eyes. How could she? How could she lie to me so blatantly? I click on Zoe's profile. Normally, she rarely posts anything on social media, preferring to keep her personal life private. But now her page is abuzz with new photos all from Hawaii, all posted in the last 3 days. Here they are having dinner at a restaurant on the ocean. Here they are sailing on a yacht. Here they are walking through some market looking at souvenirs. Not a word about her missing her mother's birthday. Not a hint of guilt. Bitterness lodges in my throat and I can't hold back the tears. Not from sadness, from rage and humiliation. My own daughter found me so insignificant that she didn't even bother to come up with a believable lie. Or worse, was so sure of my isolation from the world that she thought I'd never know the truth. I find the phone and dial Zoe's number. The dial tone goes on, but she doesn't answer. Of course, why distract myself from my Hawaiian paradise for a call from my old mother? I reset and try again, same result. Fine, I say out loud, turning back to the computer. You don't want to talk to me? Well, then I'll text you. I open Messenger and start typing. My fingers fly across the keyboard, spewing out everything I've accumulated over the years. Zoe, I saw your pictures from Hawaii. They're beautiful. I especially like the one of your sick mother-in-law posing happily with a cocktail. Amazing healing, just a miracle of medicine. She couldn't move in the morning and by evening she was dancing on the beach? I stop, reread it. No, that sounds too sarcastic. I delete it and start again. Dear daughter, thank you for being so genuinely concerned about my birthday. While you're having fun in Hawaii with your husband's family, I'm sitting alone with a cake I bought for myself. But don't worry, I'm used to it. Your whole life I've been alone raising you, working 2 jobs, denying myself everything so you could go to college. And now that you're finally out in the world, you're ashamed of your Modesto telephone operator mother who isn't good enough for your rich new family. Erasing again. Too pathetic. Too wordy. Zoe will just ignore such a message, writing it off as my usual dramatic self. I take a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. I need to be more composed, hitting my target with precision. I know all of Zoe's weaknesses after all. I created them myself. Zoe, I always knew you were capable of many things. But I didn't think lying would be your greatest talent. I saw the picture from Hawaii. Say hello to Eleanor, sick Eleanor. You know, it doesn't surprise me that you chose a lavish vacation with your new family over a single mom. I'm surprised you didn't have the courage to tell the truth. Well, I get it. The truth doesn't make you a very good person, does it? And you always wanted to be a good girl. 26 years I gave you everything I had. Lived in a tiny apartment to pay for your education. Worked 16 hours a day while you slept in a warm bed. Gave up my personal life when your father left us. And you? You refused to spend one day with me. My birthday. And you didn't even have the courage to admit it. Don't worry. I won't be a burden to you and your perfect life anymore. Enjoy Hawaii. Enjoy your new family. I hope they aren't disappointed in you the way I was. I reread the message. Every word oozes venom, and part of me knows I'm overreacting. But the other part, the part that's fed on resentment and alienation for years, wants Zoe to feel even a drop of the pain I'm feeling. My finger hovers over the send button. If I do this, there's no turning back. Our already strained relationship could end forever. Am I ready for that? But then I remember the pictures again. Zoe smiling in Jareth's arms. Eleanor, alive and well, without the slightest sign of arthritis. All of them, happy and carefree, enjoying a vacation while I sit alone on my birthday. I hit send. The message goes out into the space of the internet, and immediately afterward, a strange desolation comes over me. Not relief, but not regret, just emptiness, as if something important inside me has finally broken. Closing my laptop, I get up and walk over to the window. It's a bright spring day outside, people hurrying about their business. A young mother leads a little girl by the hand, telling her something animatedly. I involuntarily remember how I used to take little Zoe to the park, how I taught her to ride a bicycle, how I used to read her fairy tales before bedtime. When did it all go wrong? At what point did my little girl turn into a woman capable of lying to me so easily? And at what point did I turn into a mother who makes me want to run away to the other side of the country? My phone vibrates a message notification. My heart leaps to my throat. Is Zoe already answering? I'm almost afraid to look, but curiosity takes over. It's not Zoe. Barbara sends another greeting, this time with a picture of a cake. Make a wish, she writes. What wish can a woman of 67 sitting alone on her birthday, who has just sent a venomous message to her only daughter, make? I put the phone away and go into the kitchen. The cake is still waiting for me in the fridge. I take it out, set it on the table, and find the lone candle left over from last year in the drawer. I light it, stare at the small dancing flame, and think that my life is as lonely and fragile as this flame. Happy birthday, Martha, I say to myself and blow out the candle. The phone vibrates again. This time I take my time checking it. I pour myself a cup of tea, cut a piece of cake, and only then look at the screen. It's Zoe. It's ringing. I stare at the blinking screen, hesitant to answer. What will I say to her? What will she say to me? Am I ready to hear excuses or, more likely, counter accusations? The call stops, but almost immediately begins again. She's persistent, my daughter. Always has been, stubborn and determined. We're alike in that, though neither of us will ever admit it. I answer the third call, but I keep quiet, waiting to see what she has to say. Mom? Zoe's voice sounds tense. Are you there? Yes, I answer briefly. I got your message. What do you want me to say? That I'm sorry? My voice sounds tired, even to myself. No, Mom, I want to explain. Explain what? Why did you lie to me? Why did you think I was stupid enough not to know the truth? I didn't think you were stupid. I just, I just didn't want to waste my precious vacation with my old mother, I interrupt. I understand. Hawaii with her husband's rich relatives is much more appealing than a birthday party in Modesto. Mom, it's not that simple. Zoe's voice shakes, and part of me wants to soften, but the resentment is too strong. No, Zoe, it's very simple. You chose them over me. You always choose someone or something over me. That's what happened when you went away to school. That's what happened when you chose to stay in San Francisco instead of coming home. That's what happens every time you have a choice. Because around you, I always feel guilty and not good enough, she almost screams. No matter what I do, no matter what I accomplish, you're always not enough. Her words hit me like a slap in the face. Does she really think that? Am I really that terrible of a mother? I always wanted the best for you, I say quietly. No, Mom. Her voice becomes bitter. You always wanted me to be grateful for the sacrifices you made. You didn't want the best for me. You wanted me to feel indebted to you for the rest of my life. The words stick in my throat. I stare at the cake with the lone candle and feel tears come to my eyes. Happy birthday, Mom, Zoe says after a pause, and I can hear the tiredness in her voice. I was really going to call you today, and I sent you a present. I don't need your presents, I reply, trying to keep my voice firm. I needed my daughter, just for one day. I have to go now, Zoe says. We'll talk when I get back. Don't bother, I reply, and hit disconnect without waiting for her response. The cake suddenly seems sugary and unappetizing. I push the plate away and look out the window at springtime Modesto. My birthday continues, but there's no holiday cheer in sight. There is only bitterness at the realization that the only person truly close to me chose to spend this day as far away from me as possible. And somewhere in the back of my mind, I realize that maybe it's my own fault. The conversation with Zoe has left me in a strange daze. I'm not crying. The tears are long gone, dried up like a drying well. Instead, there's a lingering bitterness inside, a familiar feeling I've lived with most of my life. I lie in bed, but sleep does not come. In front of my eyes is my daughter's face, not today's grown woman from the Hawaiian pictures, but the little girl with pigtails who once looked at me with adoration. When did that change? When did that expression appear in her eyes? The wariness, the expectation of criticism, the willingness to defend herself. Rolling over onto my side, I close my eyes and let the memories wash over me like a tidal wave. I'm 12 and standing in the kitchen of our cramped house in a working-class neighborhood in Oakland. My mom is looking at my report card, her lips pressed together into a thin line. A C in math, Martha? Really? She tosses the paper on the table. And this is after all the talk about how important it is to do well in school? I tried, Mom. Her voice shakes. Mr. Phillips says I just have a different mindset. Mindset? She snorts. You don't have a mindset, Martha. Just laziness and inattentiveness. Just like your father. Mentioning my father, who left when I was 5, is always a kick in the butt. I lower my eyes, swallowing the lump in my throat. What do you think you're going to do next, huh? Mom continues. You can't get into a decent college with those grades. You're going to be like me, working in a factory for a pittance your whole life? Is that your plan? No, Mom, I whisper. Then get smart, girl. Life is not a fairy tale. No one's gonna pat your head and tell you how special you are. Either you're gonna make it, or you're gonna rot like the rest of us. She walks away and I stand, clenching my fists so hard my nails dig into my palms. In that moment, I swear to myself that I will never be that kind of mother. That my children will only know support and understanding. The memory is replaced by another. I am 23 and I am holding my newborn Zoe in my arms. Her tiny face is wrinkled like an old woman's, but to me she is the most beautiful creature in the world. Greg, my husband, is standing next to me, looking at us fondly. She looks just like you, he says, touching her cheek with his finger. I hope she has your personality, I reply, and we laugh. I believe that things will be different, that our family will be happy, that Zoe will never hear the words I heard as a child, that Greg and I will create a cozy, safe world for her. But that's not how life works. When Zoe turns 3, Greg leaves. He just packs up and says he can't go on. That he loves us, but he feels trapped. that he needs freedom, space, fulfillment. Banal words, banal situation, but it doesn't hurt any less. I'm alone with a small child, a rented apartment in a not-so-wealthy neighborhood in Modesto, and a telephonist's salary that barely covers food and bills. At night, I cry into my pillow so I don't wake my daughter. During the day, I work my ass off, taking extra shifts. Evenings pass in exhaustion and irritation. Zoe demands attention, and I don't even have the energy to smile. She's 5, and she shows me a drawing, a colorful smear of two stickmen holding hands. Look, Mommy, it's you and me. I just got back from the night shift. My eyes are sleepy, my head is buzzing, and there's an unpaid electric bill on the table. It's beautiful, I say without enthusiasm. Why are you drawing when I asked you to put the toys away? Her face changes instantly. Her smile disappears, her shoulders slump. I'll put them away now, she says quietly. It's only as she walks away that I realize I'm repeating my mother's words. The very words I'd made a promise to myself. Zoe is 7, and she brings home her first report card from school. B's and A's in every subject except PE, which is a C. You have to try harder, Zoe, I say, pointing to that single C. PE is as important as anything else. But Ms. Thompson said I'm a very good student. Her voice sounds confused. She said you'd be proud. And I am, I reply. But instead of hugging her, I continue. But you can't relax in life. Today you get a C in gym class, and tomorrow you get used to mediocrity. You must always strive for the best. The same expression appears in her eyes, wariness mixed with disappointment. That's when it first appeared, and it's only grown stronger over the years. Zoe is 12, and we're fighting over a school project. She talks passionately about working on her astronomy presentation, about how the teacher praised her ideas. And we need to buy cardboard for a model of the solar system. It costs $5 at the art store. $5 for cardboard? I shake my head. Zoe, you know every dollar counts. Can't we just use regular paper? But everyone will do it on cardboard. It's sturdier and it looks more professional. That's it, that's it. I'm waving my hand irritably. If everyone jumps off the bridge, will you jump off too? That's not the point, Mom. Her voice rises. This is an important project, 30% of your semester grade. And you'll get your 30% with a plain paper. Creativity isn't in the materials, it's in the head. She looks at me with a fury I've never seen before. You never understand. You never listen. You don't care what's important to me. I do care, I reply, feeling the anger boiling up inside. I care that you're growing up spoiled and ungrateful. You think it's easy for me to carry us both? You think I wouldn't want to buy you everything you ask for? But someone has to be the adult here. I hate you! She screams and runs off to her room. I stand in the kitchen, shaking with anger and resentment. Part of me wants to go after her, to hug her, to apologize. But the other part, the part that grew up under the constant criticism of her own mother, thinks Zoe needs to learn to accept rejection, needs to understand the value of money, needs to become stronger. I end up doing nothing, and we both go to sleep without making up. As the years go by, the gulf between us only grows. Zoe is 16, and she dreams of college in another city. San Francisco has a great computer science program, she says over dinner. San Francisco? I raise my eyebrows. It's too expensive, Zoe. And why do you need computer science? With your language skills, you could be a translator or a teacher. But I don't want to be a translator or a teacher. She puts down her fork. I want to work with data, create programs. That's the future, Mom. The future, I grin. All these computers are just a fashion fad. In 5 years, no one will need your programmers, and you'll be left with a useless diploma and a lot of student debt. You don't understand anything. Zoe gets up from the table. The whole world is moving forward and you're stuck in the last century. I understand enough. My voice turns cold. I understand that you, like all teenagers, think you know life better than adults, that you're special, unique, and have a great future ahead of you. But the reality is that most people live ordinary lives, work ordinary jobs, and go back to ordinary homes. I won't be the majority. There are tears in her eyes. And I won't be like you. Those words hurt more than she can imagine. Because deep down, I've always wished she wasn't like me, that her life would be better, fuller, happier. But I can't say it. Instead, I say, time will tell, Zoe. Time will tell. And it has. Despite my doubts, Zoe went to college in San Francisco on a full scholarship. She studied hard, worked part-time at the student cafeteria to pay for housing, and hardly ever came home on weekends. I told myself that this was normal, that she was busy studying, that traveling took up too much time. But the truth was that there was nothing keeping her home except a sense of duty. And duty is something you always want to get out of. I didn't go to her graduation right away. First, I said I couldn't get off work. Then I said I couldn't afford the ticket. The truth is, I was scared, afraid to see how far she'd come from me, how much she'd changed, how little I mattered in her new life. But at the last minute, I showed up, sat in the farthest corner of the auditorium, watching my daughter in her graduation gown receive her diploma with honors. How her friends, confident young men with impeccable hair and expensive watches, embrace her. The way she smiles, openly, freely, not at all like she smiled at home. After the ceremony, she noticed me and stood still for a moment. Then she came over, gave me a discreet hug, introduced me to a few friends. We had dinner at a restaurant she'd chosen, too loud, too fancy for me. The conversation didn't flow. I felt alien, out of place, out of this colorful world she had created for herself. Do you have plans? I asked when we were alone. I've been offered a job at a startup, she replied. Here in San Francisco. So you're not coming home? I tried to keep my voice neutral. Modesto was never my home, Mom. She looked me in the eye. You know that. I knew it. And I hated myself for not being able to make a real home for her, a place to come back to. Well, I smiled strained. I hope this job lives up to your expectations. You could just be happy for me, she said quietly. Just for tonight. I am happy, I replied. Just in my own way. That was the end of our conversation. I left the next day, and our communication was reduced to occasional phone calls on holidays and even more infrequent visits. Zoe had succeeded in her career, just as she had predicted. At 28, she was already a senior data scientist at a major technology company. It was there that she met Jareth Latimer, the handsome, charming son of an investment firm owner. When she brought him to Modesto to introduce him to me, I knew right away, this man would take her permanently. He looked at her with adoration, held her hand, listened to every word, and she glowed beside him as she had never glowed with me. Nice to meet you, Mrs. Winship, he said, shaking my hand. Zoe has told me so much about you. I doubted the stories were flattering, but I smiled and invited them in. Over dinner, Jareth talked about his work, his future plans, how he and Zoe dreamed of traveling the world. I watched my daughter. She laughed at his jokes, picked up stories, looked at him with a tenderness I hadn't seen in her eyes in a long time. How did you two meet? I asked, even though Zoe had already told me on the phone. Oh, it's a funny story, Jareth began. I spilled coffee on her in the elevator. Half a cup of latte on my white blouse, Zoe added, smiling. I was furious. She called me an armless idiot, Jareth laughed. And it was the most honest first impression anyone had ever made on a girl. They talked, interrupting each other, adding details to the story, and I suddenly felt a sharp pang of envy. Not of their relationship, no. Of the ease with which Zoe interacted with him. The way she laughed freely, the way she wasn't afraid to show her feelings. She was always wary of me, always ready for criticism, for disapproval, always defensive, even when I didn't attack. We wanted to tell you in person, Jareth said, taking Zoe's hand. We're engaged. Zoe showed a ring with a small but flawless diamond. The wedding will be in 6 months, she added. A small, intimate one. I looked at them and tried to feel joy. My daughter had found a man who loved her, who, by the looks of it, could give her everything I couldn't. Stability, support, unconditional acceptance. Congratulations, I said, raising my glass. I hope you'll be happy. Thank you, Mom, Zoe smiled, but I could see the relief in her eyes. She had expected a different reaction from me. Criticism, doubts, warnings that not everything in life is like a fairy tale. And in that moment, the realization hit me. I had done this to her. I, with my perpetual anxiety and distrust of the world, had handed her my distorted vision of life, taught her to expect the worst even in the best moments. My mother did it to me, and I did it to Zoe. A vicious cycle that Jareth, with his love and acceptance, will now probably break. After they left, I sat in the empty apartment for a long time, going through old photos. Zoe in kindergarten, with a gap-toothed smile and an ice cream stain on her dress. Zoe in middle school, serious, with a book in her hands. Zoe in college, already distant, looking past the lens. And I thought about how many times I could have told her I was proud of her. How many times I could have hugged her instead of criticizing her. How many opportunities for bonding I missed because I was too busy, too tired, too wrapped up in my fears and resentments. I went to the wedding alone. I sat in the front row, as a mother of the bride should, but I felt like a stranger to the festivities. Jareth's parents, an elegant couple with impeccable manners, greeted me kindly but discreetly. Eleanor Latimer, his mother, invited me for a cup of tea before the ceremony. "Zoe is an amazing girl," she said. "So intelligent, so determined. You've raised a wonderful daughter, Martha." "She's always been strong," I replied, "ever since she was a little girl." "Jareth is crazy about her," Eleanor smiled. "You know, he's always been such a reserved boy. But with Zoe, he just blossomed." I looked at that woman, well-groomed, confident, with the pearl necklace around her neck, and I thought that she'd probably never felt the despair I knew. Never counted every dollar, never denied a child the necessities of life, never cried from exhaustion at night. "We are so happy that Zoe is part of our family now," she continued. "And we hope you'll think of us as family too." I nodded, not trusting my voice. There was no falseness in her words. She really wanted me to feel accepted. But to me, used to isolation, to Zoe and I always being just the two of us against the whole world, this new family seemed like a threat. At the ceremony, I sat up straight, holding back tears. Zoe was beautiful in a simple white dress, with flowers in her hair. As she and Jared exchanged vows, I saw in her eyes what I could never give her, the assurance that she was loved unconditionally, accepted completely, with all her flaws and weaknesses. After the wedding, our communication became even more infrequent. Zoe and Jareth traveled extensively, then immersed themselves in work. I stayed in Modesto, continuing to work at the telephone exchange until I retired last year. Sometimes Zoe would call, asking how things were going, telling me about her projects. Sometimes she'd come up with Jarrett for the weekend, less and less often. And every time, I could see the relief in her eyes when they left. Now, lying in bed after our conversation, after all the revelations and accusations, I realize that the past won't let us both go. It holds tight, defining every word, every gesture, every thought. Was I a bad mother? Maybe. I did the best I could with what I had, with my parenting, with my fears, with my loneliness. But for Zoe, it wasn't enough. She sought and found what I couldn't give her, unconditional acceptance. And she found it not from me, but from strangers. Maybe this is my punishment for all my mistakes, to see my daughter find happiness away from me, with another family, in faraway Hawaii, having lied to me about her plans for my birthday. The clock on my bedside table reads 3 in the morning. My birthday is already over. 67 years old. And what do I have? An empty apartment, a handful of blood pressure and arthritis pills, a cat who is only interested in me at feeding time, and a daughter who prefers her mother-in-law to her own mother. "You deserve it, Martha," whispers a voice in my head that sounds suspiciously like my mother's. "You got exactly what you deserve." And I can't help but agree with him, as painful as it is. The morning after my birthday starts with a headache. Outside the window, the gray sky and drizzling rain are a perfect reflection of my mood. I dash to the kitchen, swallow a blood pressure pill with warm tap water. I feel older and more broken than ever. Yesterday's cake is still on the table, almost untouched. The room smells of wilted flowers and loneliness. Oscar rubs against my legs, reminding me to feed him. At least someone needs me. My phone rings as I put the rest of the cake in the container. Glancing at the screen, I freeze. Zoe, again. After last night's conversation, I didn't expect her to call so soon. Part of me wants to ignore the call, but curiosity and lingering pain take over. Yes, I answer dryly. Mom? Her voice sounds strange, like she's been crying. Mom, can we talk? Didn't we say everything yesterday? I try to sound indifferent, but her tone makes me clench inside. No, not everything. I owe her an explanation. Yeah, I was up all night thinking about our conversation. And what changed overnight? I ask bitterly. Have you suddenly decided that deceiving your mother is a bad thing? Mom, please listen to me, she says, a plea I haven't heard in a long time. I lied to you, and it's unforgivable. But it's not what you think it is. I remain silent, and she takes that as permission to continue. This trip was planned 6 months ago. Jareth's parents are celebrating their 30th wedding anniversary, and they invited us to join them. All the tickets, all the reservations were made long before we knew Eleanor was going to be sick. And when did your precious mother-in-law get sick? I interrupt. Judging from the pictures, she's doing very well in Hawaii. She was really sick, Mom. Zoe's voice trembles. Her arthritis has gotten worse. 2 weeks ago, it got so bad she could barely walk. We were going to cancel the trip, but she insisted we go without her. Said she would try a new medication and maybe join us later if she got better. And how convenient that she got better right around my birthday. I can't contain my sarcasm. She just flew in yesterday, Zoe says quietly. The doctor cleared her for the flight, and she decided to surprise Richard. Yes, it coincided with your birthday, but don't think we planned it on purpose. So why did you lie to me? My voice is ringing with tension. Why didn't you just tell me the truth? The silence in the phone lasts for a few seconds. Because I'm a coward, Zoe finally answers. I knew you'd be offended if I told you I was going to Hawaii instead of coming to you. I knew you'd take it as a betrayal. So instead of being honest, I chose a lie that seemed easier. Her confession takes me by surprise. I was expecting excuses, blame shifting, whatever, but not this candor. And you think your confession changes anything? I asked after a pause. You chose their family over me anyway. Your new, rich, happy family over your real family. Mom, this isn't a competition. Zoe's voice is tired. I'm not choosing between you. I can love you, and I can love them. No, Zoe, it is exactly a competition, and you made your choice clear. Bitterness overwhelms me. Ever since you met Jareth and his family, all you've done is choose them over me. That's not true, she protests with sudden force. I call you every week. I come to Modesto whenever I can. I've invited you to join us in San Francisco, but you always find reasons to refuse. Oh, so it's my fault? The indignation rises up inside me like a tidal wave. I'm supposed to be grateful for the crumbs of your attention? That my only daughter deigns to call me once a week for 5 minutes? That you spend one weekend with me every 3 months, and you're always looking at your watch, counting the minutes until you leave? Mom, it's not fair. No, Zoe. What's not fair is that I raised you alone, denying myself everything so you could learn, so you could have everything you needed. It's not fair that now, when you have the opportunity to repay me a little, at least with attention, not money, you prefer to spend time with people who have done nothing for you but let you join their rich family. There is silence on the other end of the wire. I can only hear Zoe's heavy breathing, and I realize she's trying to hold back tears. Part of me, a small, dark part, rejoices in this. Let her feel a drop of the pain I feel. You don't know them, Mom, Zoe finally says in a quiet voice. You've never given yourself a chance to really know Jareth and his parents. Why would I? I snort. What am I going to find besides their condescending looks and pity for a single mom who can barely make ends meet? They've never looked down on you. Zoe sounds genuinely indignant. Eleanor always said how much respect she had for you for raising me alone without any support. Oh, how nice of her, my sarcasm could cut glass. The rich lady with the pearl necklace respects the poor telephone operator from Modesto. Am I supposed to be flattered? Mom, stop it! Zoe is clearly crying now. Why do you always make everything about money? It's not about that. Then what is it about? I ask sharply. The way they treat me, she replies after a pause. The way they listen when I speak. How they rejoice in my successes instead of looking for faults in them. How they hug me when I feel bad instead of telling me that life is hard and you just have to get used to it. Her words hit harder than any physical blow, because there's truth in them, the truth I've always refused to see. When I met Jareth, Zoe continues in a quieter voice, I was sure it wouldn't last. That guys like him wouldn't date guys like me. That sooner or later he'd see my flaws and leave. I find it hard to breathe. I hear in her words the echo of my own thoughts, my fears that I've unknowingly passed on to her. But he didn't leave. Zoe's voice warms. He said he loved me exactly the way I am, with all my fears and insecurities, with all my flaws, and his parents. They accepted me into their family unconditionally, without the expectation that I have to prove my worth every day. I don't say anything because I don't know what to say, because I know what she's talking about what I could never give her, unconditional love. Do you remember the first time we went to their house for dinner? Zoe asks. Of course I remember. It was shortly after she and Jareth started dating. They invited us both to their house in the suburbs of San Francisco, a huge, bright mansion overlooking the bay. I felt out of place there in my best dress, which still looked cheap compared to Eleanor's simple but obviously expensive clothes. You were so tense, Zoe recalled. You hardly spoke at all, you had one-word answers. And then, when we were helping clear the table, you broke a crystal glass. I shudder at the memory. The glass slipped out of my hands and shattered on the marble floor. I was horrified, certain I'd ruined the evening, that I'd confirmed their worst assumptions about me. And you know what Eleanor did? Zoe continued. She laughed and said, Oh, finally! Richard gave me this set 5 years ago and I hate these glasses. They're too pretentious. Now I have an excuse to buy ones I actually like. I remember that. I remember the disbelief with which I took her words, certain that it was just politeness hiding irritation. And then, Zoe's voice softens. As we were leaving, she hugged me and said she was glad Jareth had found such a wonderful girl. And she hugged you too, remember? You tensed up like you'd been hit. I did tense up, because I wasn't used to that kind of warmth from a complete stranger, because I suspected some kind of trick. They're good people, Mom, Zoe said. They're not trying to replace you or steal me. They've just accepted me into their family and they love me, just like I love them. And yet, my voice sounds cold, you chose to celebrate with them in Hawaii rather than come to my birthday party. I made a mistake, Zoe admits. I should have been honest with you from the beginning. Told you about the trip, explained the situation. But I was afraid I'd react the way I'm reacting now. I was afraid you'd take it as a personal insult. How else am I supposed to take it? I ask bitterly. As circumstances, Mom. As a coincidence, not as a conscious choice to hurt you. We both fall silent. I can hear the ocean rumbling somewhere near Zoe on the tube. She's probably standing on the beach or on the balcony of a hotel room, looking out at the waves. And I'm sitting in my small kitchen, overlooking the brick wall of the neighboring house. Two different worlds that will never cross. I can't leave it like this, Mom, Zoe finally says. I want us to talk when I get back. A real talk. About us. About the past. About moving on. Why? I ask tiredly. What will one more conversation change? You live your life. I live mine. You've chosen a path that takes you further and further away from me. Maybe that's the way it should be. No, it shouldn't, she said with sudden determination. You're my mother. You're the only mother I have. And I'm not going to give up. Don't you think it's too late? I ask with a bitter chuckle. 26 years of constant disappointment in each other. Maybe we should just admit that we're too different to be truly close. Eleanor and Jareth aren't the same, Zoe replies. But they've learned to respect each other's differences. Appreciate them even. Richard and Eleanor argue, sometimes very loudly. But they always find a compromise. Always remembering that they love each other, even when they're angry. How nice for them. I can't contain my sarcasm. I guess it's easier to compromise when you have money for an expensive marriage counselor and a vacation in Hawaii. Mom, Zoe sounds tired. You're always looking for a way to make it about money. But it's not about money. It's about choices. Choices to see the good in people, to give them a chance, to be open to new experiences. It's easy to talk about choices when you have options, I replied. I've never had that luxury. You've always had a choice about how to treat life, Zoe says quietly. how to treat me. Those words hit something deep inside me. A memory of little Zoe showing me her drawing, of teenage Zoe asking my advice on her prom dress, of adult Zoe still seeking my approval despite years of disappointment. Maybe she's right. Maybe I really have always had a choice. And maybe I've always chosen wrong. I should go, I say, unprepared for the thought. Jareth is probably waiting for you for another photo shoot on the beach. Mom, please, Zoe's voice is pleading again. Let's not end the conversation like this. How do you suggest we end it? I ask. Pretend everything's okay? That you didn't lie to me? That I didn't spend my birthday alone while you partied with your husband's family? No, she replies. I suggest we end it with hope. The hope that we can talk when I get back. A real talk without accusations or defenses. I don't know what to say. Part of me, the part of me that still remembers little Zoe falling asleep curled up in my lap wants to agree, wants to believe that all is not lost. But the other part, hurt, scarred by years of disappointment, is afraid of new pain. Call me when you get back, I finally say, choosing the middle path. Not a yes or a no, just a possibility. Okay, I can hear the relief in Zoe's voice. I love you, Mom. I don't answer. I can't bring myself to say the words even though they're true. Instead, I just hang up the phone, feeling more alone than ever. The rest of the day passes like a blur. I mechanically do housework, watch TV without taking in the content, go through old photo albums. In one picture, Zoe is standing between Eleanor and me at her and Jareth's wedding. My daughter is beaming with happiness. Eleanor looks at her with a tenderness that can't be faked. And me. I look tense, like I don't know what I'm doing in this picture. Like I'm an outsider at my own daughter's celebration of life. Maybe I am. Maybe I've been a stranger in Zoe's life for a long time. And I blame everyone else for that. Her husband, her parents, her circumstances. But not myself. But deep down, in a place I rarely look, I know the truth. I know that I pushed her away with my own fears and resentments. My inability to enjoy her successes without a shadow of envy. By my constant resentment and criticism. Zoe found what she had always lacked with me: unconditional acceptance. A family where you can be yourself without fear of judgment. Where love doesn't have to be earned by proving your worth day in and day out. And a part of me, a small, squashed but still alive part of me, is happy for her. Glad that she's found something I never had. What I couldn't give her. But there's a lot more bitterness and resentment in me. Feeling betrayed, abandoned, replaced. That all my sacrifices were for nothing. That I gave everything I had to raise a daughter who chose another family. And that bitterness, that resentment is stronger than hope, stronger than love. They choke out all the good that's left between us. And I don't know how to change that. I'm not sure I want to change it. Because my resentment is the last thing that binds us together. The last thing that makes Zoe remember me, feel responsible, call me even once in a while. Without her, I'm afraid of being all alone, forgotten, unwanted, like an old thing that should have been thrown away long ago. But it's a shame. In the evening, I look at the pictures from Hawaii again, the happy faces of Zoe and her new family, and I can feel the wall between us getting higher and stronger. A wall I've built over the years, stone by stone, grudge by grudge. And now, when it seems insurmountable, I suddenly realize that I'm trapped on the other side of it, alone, in the dark, with bitterness as my only company. But I'm too old and too proud to admit it out loud, even to myself. It's been a week since my birthday, a week filled with silence and reflection. Zoe didn't call again, and I made no attempt to contact her. Hawaiian vacation was coming to an end. I knew that from the social media posts of mutual friends. Although I vowed to myself not to follow my daughter's life online anymore, temptation was stronger than principle. Last night I got a quick text from her. We're back in San Francisco. Can I come see you on Saturday? We need to talk. I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to see Zoe. Another part of me dreaded the meeting. In the morning I wrote back, come by at 2. No emotion, no additional words. Just an agreement to a meeting I was both looking forward to and dreading. It's Saturday. The clock on the wall reads 15 to 2. I've already double dusted all the surfaces, re-washed the cups, arrange the cookies on the table that Zoe loved as a child. Why am I doing this? Am I trying to create the illusion of normalcy? Or just keeping my hands busy so I don't have to think about the upcoming conversation? The doorbell rings at 2 sharp. Punctuality is a trait Zoe inherited from me, one of the few. I open the door and see her standing on the doorstep, looking tired despite her tan. She's holding a small paper bag. "Hi, Mom," she says quietly. "Hello, Zoe." I step back, letting her inside. "Come on in." She walks in, looking around like she hasn't been here in a while, even though it's only been 3 months since her last visit. "I brought you a present." Zoe holds out a package. "Happy birthday." Belated, I know. I take the package, look inside. It's a beautiful porcelain box with mother of pearl trim. Obviously expensive, not from a tourist souvenir store. "Thank you," I say discreetly, putting the box back on the shelf. "Would you like some tea?" "Yes, please." We go into the kitchen. I put the kettle on, take out the cups, the same ones from the holiday set I don't usually use. Zoe sits at the table, fidgeting with her napkin. The silence lingers, becoming uncomfortable. "How was your trip?" I finally ask, and a venomous note slips into my voice. "Good," she answers, and after a pause, she adds, "Eleanor felt better almost immediately after arriving. Something about the warm climate is good for her arthritis." I let out a short, sharp laugh. Yes, an amazing healing, a medical miracle. Zoe tenses but doesn't respond to my sarcasm. "Mom," she sighs deeply, "I came here for a reason. We need to have a serious talk." "I figured it out," I reply, setting the cup of tea in front of her with such force that some of it spills out onto the saucer. "About what exactly? About how much fun you had in Hawaii while I sat here alone on my birthday?" "Us. About what's been going on between us for years. About why we can't just, be mother and daughter without all the pain and resentment." I sit across from her with my arms crossed over my chest, a defensive posture I unconsciously adopt when I feel threatened. "What are you suggesting?" I ask, not hiding my irritation. "Another lecture on what a terrible mother I am? Or maybe you've decided to abandon me in favor of your precious mother-in-law?" "Honesty for starters." She looks me straight in the eye, ignoring my barbs. "Complete and utter honesty. No attempts to soften the blow or avoid conflict. I think we both deserve at least that." I nod, feeling the anger boiling up inside. She's talking about honesty after she lied to me about her plans? After making a fool of me in front of mutual friends? "Okay," I agree through gritted teeth. "Go ahead. Just don't expect me to sit still and nod at your accusations." Zoe takes a deep breath, as if about to dive into icy water. "I love you, Mom. I always have and I always will. You're the only mother I have, and nothing will change that. This is not the start I expected." These words, spoken with such sincerity, take me by surprise. But I am too angry, too hurt to let them soften my heart. "But," she continues, and her voice is firmer now, "I can no longer pretend that everything is okay, that I'm not hurt by the way you treat me, that I don't feel guilty and not good enough every time we communicate." "I never said you weren't good enough," I object, feeling my cheeks redden. "If you're feeling guilty, then maybe there's a reason for it. Like your own mother's lies? Ever since I was a little girl, I felt like I had to earn your love, that it wasn't just given to me by birthright." "That's not true!" I bang my fist on the table and the cups bounce. "I've always loved you. I gave you my whole life. And in gratitude, you accuse me of not loving you enough? That's ridiculous." "But you never showed it, Mom." Tears welled up in her eyes, but her voice remained calm. "You were so busy making me strong, getting me ready for real life, that you forgot to just be my mom." "Oh, I'm sorry I haven't showered you with praise for every sneeze." My voice oozes venom. "I'm sorry I was too busy making money for your food and clothes to have group hug sessions. What a horrible, heartless mother." "It's not about that, Mom." Zoe shakes her head, and her calmness only fuels my anger more. "It's about choices. You chose to see me as an extension of your failures. You chose to criticize instead of support. And where would you be now if I hadn't prepared you for real life?" I'm practically screaming. "You think the world is kind to naive dreamers? You think I didn't want a better future for you? Or maybe you think your successes are your own doing, and your shortcomings are the result of my upbringing." I know I wanted the best. Zoe reaches out and tries to put her hand over mine, but I yank my hand away. But what you don't realize is that it was your constant criticism, your distrust of the world, your certainty that everything is bound to go wrong. That was the hardest thing for me. Is that how you see me? I jump up from my chair, feeling my hands shake with rage. Like a horrible mother who ruined your life with her expectations? As the monster you need to run away from into the arms of someone else's good family? Well, I'm sorry I wasn't perfect. I'm sorry I couldn't give you everything your husband's family is giving you now. You're making this about money again. Zoe shakes her head, and her calmness only makes me hotter. I never asked you for material things. I asked for love, support, faith in me. And now you found it with another family. I can't hide the bitterness and rage in my voice. With people who've only known you for 3 years, who haven't seen you take your first steps, who didn't sit up with you nights when you had a fever. I'm not comparing you, Mom. Zoe looks tired, but I'm too angry to notice. Eleanor never tried to replace you. She just accepted me into her family. Absolutely. How convenient, I snort with undisguised contempt. Coming into a ready-made, well-off family and enjoying unconditional acceptance. I wonder if it would be so unconditional if you didn't meet their standards. If you didn't have the education, the career, the prospects. You don't know them. There's real anger in Zoe's voice now, and it gives me a perverse satisfaction. You never gave yourself the trouble to really get to know them. You thought they were arrogant rich people who looked down on you. And aren't they? I laugh harshly and unpleasantly. Don't they look down on me as a loser? A poor telephonist from the provinces who couldn't even bring up her daughter properly? They never thought of you that way, exclaimed Zoe. It's all in your head, Mom. Your fears, your complexes, your constant belief that the whole world is against you. Don't you dare talk to me about my complexes. I can feel my voice breaking with anger. You have no idea what I've been through. You grew up with a roof over your head and food on the table. I gave it all to you by denying myself everything. And instead of thanking me, you're accusing me of not saying love often enough? Zoe tries to say something, but I continue without letting her get a word in edgewise. You know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe I really didn't know how to show my love. Maybe I was too strict, too demanding. But I would never, ever leave you to have fun with strangers. I would never lie to you as shamelessly as you lied to me. Mom, I made a mistake. Zoe's voice trembles. I should have been honest with you, but I was afraid of your reaction. I was afraid of a scene like this. So now it's my fault that you lied? I chuckle bitterly. Fine. Come on, put the blame on me like you always have. I'm not shifting the blame. Zoe looks exhausted. I'm trying to explain. We've both made mistakes, but can't we try to make it right? Especially now? Now? I squint my eyes. What's different now? Zoe takes a deep breath before answering. I'm pregnant, Mom. 4 months. The news hits me like a blow to the head. Pregnant? My daughter is expecting a baby and I'm only finding out now? After all the accusations and the fighting? And you, knowing you're pregnant, chose a vacation in Hawaii over visiting your mother? My voice sounds icy. You used the pregnancy as an excuse to reconcile when it suited you? Mom, no! Zoe shakes her head, tears welling up in her eyes. We planned to tell you after we got back, in person. It was supposed to be a surprise. Oh, it's definitely a surprise, I laugh bitterly. Finding out you're going to be a grandmother in the middle of a fight with the daughter who betrayed you. It's a wonderful surprise. I didn't betray you, Zoe says quietly. I made a mistake. I lied about the trip and I apologize for that. But that doesn't mean I don't love you. It doesn't mean I don't want you to be a part of my baby's life. Part of your child's life, I echo. On what terms? Am I supposed to smile and pretend everything's fine? I have to endure the condescending looks of your mother-in-law? Should I be grateful for the crumbs of attention? No, Mom. Zoe stands up from her chair, looking utterly exhausted. You should just love your grandson or granddaughter, me, yourself, without conditions, without expectations, without this constant anger and resentment towards the world. Her words hit me harder than any insult, because there's a grain of truth in them that I refuse to recognize. I don't know how to do that, I say. And for the first time, there's no anger in my voice. only weariness. I don't know how. No one has ever loved me unconditionally, Zoe. Not my mother, not your father, not you. I don't know how to love without fear, without pain, without expectation of betrayal. I can teach you, Zoe says quietly, if you let me. I look at my daughter, the beautiful, strong woman she's become in spite of, not because of my upbringing. And something inside me breaks, not for the better, but for the worse. Pride, resentment, a sense of loyalty. They're defeating common sense, defeating the love that still lives somewhere deep inside. No, Zoe, I say firmly. I can't. I don't want to. I'm too old to change. Too proud to apologize for being the kind of mother I could have been. I want you to be happy. I want a healthy baby. But I won't be a part of it. Zoe looks at me like I've hit her. There's disbelief, pain, disappointment in her eyes. Is that really what you've decided? She asks in a shaky voice. Yes, I answer, not allowing myself to hesitate. I've made up my mind. Zoe nods slowly, as if she's finally realized something important. Goodbye, Mom, she says quietly. If you ever change your mind, you know where to find me. She leaves, and I'm left standing in the middle of the kitchen, staring at the door as it closes. Inside me is an emptiness that is slowly being filled with bitterness. The bitterness that has always been my most faithful companion. I pick up my phone, open my contacts. Zoe's name and her photo are on the screen. My finger hovers over the delete button. A symbolic gesture, but to me it signifies a final breakup. An admission that some bridges can't be rebuilt, that some wounds don't heal. I click delete and confirm the action. Zoe's photo disappears from the screen. Her number disappears from my phone as if she never existed. And I'm left here, alone, with anger and resentment as my only companions. But at least it's my choice. My conscious choice to stay true to myself, to my pride. Even if the price of that loyalty is a lonely old age.